to Naomi's all-inclusive world, where today I'm gonna look at addiction, what it is, and just how dangerous or costly it can be to anyone, including those with disabilities. Now, an addiction, in the simplest of language, is an urge to do something that you almost feel like you have no control about, stopping it or putting a pause on it. And different people get addicted to different things, or rather, we have different types of addictions. You've heard of people who are just addicted to food. It's like it's like food anytime. Don't even ask me. If there's food, just give me. And that act or that addiction can now result into things like you struggling with weight, can lead to you having to deal with other effects of eating wrong foods, because again, an addiction doesn't take time to think of what value is there. It just like, if it wants food, it wants food. So you realize, like, people who are addicted to food won't actually be like addicted to only healthy foods. They're addicted to good foods, they're addicted to junk foods, they're addicted to sugar, and so on. So you realize now that can end up resulting to things like, struggling with weight, diabetes, and so on. And therefore, now that addiction ends up being too costly. Another addiction that I'm sure you have come across is we have people who are addicted to gadgets. We have people who are addicted to phones, to the TV, to especially just gadgets, electronic gadgets. And it's like every time they are not asleep, they are on a gadget or the other one. Like you've had cases where someone will go like, Kwani Naomi, you're always on phone, George, Kwani, you're always on your laptop, or something like that. And if you're not very careful, it can actually become an addiction, whereby it's almost like your second oxygen, which is very dangerous. And you see now the repercussions, or the result of such an addiction will be, for example, your back. You might realize that because you are sat for too long, and you're always on your gadget, on your laptop, and so on, you realize it might actually hurt your back. So that addiction can end up resulting in actually a disability. You end up having a bad back. That addiction can actually end up costing your sight. So you realize that your eyes start acting up. You have to start visiting the optician, and so on. So it actually now graduates from just being an addiction to it giving birth to something else, to even a disability. Another thing, actually, you see that can result in someone who is addicted to gadgets, is you realize that that person will end up having an unbalanced life. Such a person will end up missing family gatherings. They always will have reasons as to why, I'll not make it to my sister's, birthday party or something. So you realize, actually, you might end up delinking yourself from family and from people who matter to you without you knowing, just because every minute you want to be on your gadget, you want to be, and then again, such people end up actually not having enough rest. So if you're an employee somewhere, you realize that will actually start affecting your work, because when you left work, you didn't go home to do other things, to clean up, to rest. You went to sit down, and there you are on your gadget, and that can start affecting your work because you're not getting enough sleep. You realize you start getting grumpy because you're not resting enough, and so on. And before you know it, it might actually cost you your job. So any addiction is not good. It can end up worsening what is already bad. Another addiction that I really would like to mention is an addiction to drugs, alcohol, and other substances. You realize that actually just it being an addiction is a disease, is an issue already. But now the repercussions of you being addicted to a certain substance, to alcohol, to a certain drug, will actually also even just worsen the situation. You'll end up, for example, say, being robbed, because once you have taken whatever substance you're taking, you don't have your thinking capacity with you. You probably will be drunk, and you won't make it to your house, or you'll make it to your house and you'll not lock it down, so it will be open to thieves. And you see, again, not all neighbors are good neighbors. Some neighbors are always waiting to see your weak point and to see when they can actually take advantage and, you say, for example, rob you or something like that. So you realize, again, an addiction to a substance or to drugs or to alcohol can end up actually, you being robbed would actually mean you can even end up being hurt. You see, that might cost you your body part. And again, an addiction to things like substance and so on can cost your dignity, because you realize you have been drunk, you fell in a ditch, you lost a tooth. It even takes away your self-confidence. Now you are toothless, or you are lacking two teeth. Now your face looks different. And then again, it just takes away your dignity. You're not the put together, Naomi we always knew you. You're not the put together, composed, William, or whoever we've always known. You start looking, and so on. And it has a way of now getting to a point where you will want to sell anything you lay your hands on to supply, to make, to take care of the supply. So before we know it, George will start selling his suits. Before we know it, George will start selling his shoes, because he has to get money to keep the supply. Before we know it, we were wondering, Kwani Naomi used to go do her hair nicely, she used to bake nice. Nowadays, Kwani, what happened? She changed her style? Or no, she actually has gotten to a level where she doesn't even have money to go and do her hair, do her face, maybe do a facial or something like that, because every shilling that is now coming her way, every dollar, every dime that comes her way, the first thing she's thinking about is going to get a supply of what she's addicted to. In this case, maybe a substance, maybe some drug, maybe alcohol, and so on. So before you know it, you're broke. Before you know it, you can't even take care of your bills. Before you know it, you've been thrown out of the house, and so on. So it ends up also just being very humiliating and just taking away your dignity. So again, guys, addiction is terrible to anyone, whether or not you have a disability. This in itself is disabling enough. The beauty with any addiction is it is reversible. If you seek the right help, if you seek the right assistance, addictions can be helped. Addictions can be reversed, and that means there's a chance for you to bounce back and live like you used to, or even better. Addictions that I can just quickly mention are things like, we have people who are actually addicted to pornography. We have people who are addicted to, things like just shopping. It's like every time you go to a shopping mall, you'll always find Naomi there. You go and think, do you do shopping for people or something like that? No, we have people who are addicted to shopping. Until when you ask them, by the way, so now what are you going to use this particular thing in the house? It's like they don't. I just saw it, I liked it, and I bought it, and so on. And it can become an addiction if you're not very careful. It can end up draining you. It can end up actually like messing your priority, messing your savings, because you're always thinking every time you're shopping, you're spending. So honestly, if whatever you're buying is not adding value to you, then that's just money, put in that gadget, put in that item that is not going to bring any value back. And if you're not very careful, it can become actually an addiction. And lastly, also we have people who are addicted to sex. We have people who are addicted to, it's like it's almost like every time they see a woman, if it's a man, he's already like thinking about, gosh, I need to sleep with that woman. Oh, she looks hot, she looks blah blah, and it can become an addiction where you miss on things, and it can even mess your concentration, because all you're thinking about is actually sex, and it can become a very serious addiction. And again, we know the consequences that come with such things. You risk you risk catching an infection. You risk spoiling relationships, because it's like people will be afraid of even just, especially people of the opposite sex, of just being close to you, because it's like every person who is close to you is a potential sex toy almost. And also, you risk, if you're a man, you risk siring kids that you might not be able to take care of. And if you're a woman, you risk actually popping out children that you're not ready to be a mother of, number one. Number two, that you actually might not be able to raise with their fathers. So again, guys, let's just watch out for these things. If you realize that probably you have such an addiction, or there's someone you know that has a certain kind of an addiction, the beauty with it is when you seek the right help, it can be reversed. Thanks for your time, and I hope this helps you. in one way or the other. And just the question is, do you think you have any addiction, or do you know someone who might be having some addiction? I mean, look out for help if you do, or help someone who might be having some type of addiction to reach out for help, because again, thankfully, this situation, this condition, this case is reversible. If you haven't subscribed, please hit the subscribe button and click on the notification bell so that every time I throw in any new information, you're the first one to know. And let's just keep this rolling, this information and sharing of the right information and awareness about disabilities rolling, because this is the only way we can help each other.